Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be making this pin cushion that looks like a birthday cake. I've had the same pin cushion since I was like 12 or so. I hand sewed it myself and it was really bad design because it wasn't thick enough, and so I would just get stabbed by the pins like all the time. And I was seeing crochet cakes all over Pinterest, and I thought, how cool would it be if I made a cake that was a pin cushion, because you know the pins sort of look like little candles or sprinkles or something, so I thought that would be really cute. I wasn't even planning to make this like a video or a pattern, but I just decided people really liked it, and so I thought maybe you would want to make it. This written pattern is going to be up on my Patreon along with all of my other YouTube patterns, so if you want a written version of the pattern, feel free to go there. But if you don't want to do that, you can just follow along in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. Here is the finished pin cushion. It is 3.5 inches diameter by 2 inches tall, and it's just big enough to hold my million pins. For this project, you're going to need a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook, worsted weight yarn in at least 2 colors, and some stuffing, preferably scrap yarn because that's going to be stiffer than polyester stuffing. As with almost all amigurumi patterns, we're going to start with 6 single crochet and a magic loop. And then I'm going to place my marker, which is just a scrap piece of yarn. That's what I always use. And then we're going to start the first round, which is to increase 6 times. And if you don't know, an increase is just single crocheting twice in the same stitch. So we're going from 6 stitches to 12 stitches. For our next round, we're going to keep increasing, except this round we're going to do single crochet 1 increase, and you're going to repeat that 6 times to get you 18 stitches. Up next, we're going to do single crochet 2 and then increase 6 times to get us up to 24 stitches. Then next we're going to continue our pattern by single crocheting 3 stitches and then increasing 6 times to get us up to 30 stitches. Our last increase round is going to be a little bit different. We're going to single crochet 2 and then increase, and then single crochet 4, increase, repetition 5 times, and then lastly we're going to single crochet 2. And that's going to get us up to 36 stitches. And the reason why we're doing this is because increasing 6 times in a round sort of gets you a hexagon shape, and just slightly moving it in the last round gets you a more round shape. Okay, now that we're at our full size, we're going to make a turn, and we're going to do that by single crocheting 36 stitches in the back posts only. And you can see here how I'm doing that. We're not crocheting in the stitch on top, we're crocheting in the post underneath. And so I like to think of it as going in one stitch and then out the next stitch. And you're going to do that 36 times all the way around. Now that we've done that funny round, we're going to do another funny round, and this time we're going to single crochet all the way around, but only in the back loops. And you can see here where I left my marker, it sort of looks like there's an extra stitch, so just make sure you know which stitch you're supposed to be going into. And yeah, we're just going to work in the back loops only, which means we're just going to be single crocheting in the back strand of the V. Next up, we're just going to do 2 plain rounds of single crochet. For our center round, dividing our 2 layers of our cake, we're just going to do another round of single crochet in the back loops only. So just repeat what we did earlier. Then to fill out our bottom cake, we're just going to single crochet around twice. We need to turn a corner again, so we're just going to do another round of back post like we did at the top of our cake. So only working in the back posts of the stitches. Since we increased at the top, we need to decrease at the bottom. So we're basically doing the opposite of everything we did at the beginning. So for this round, we're going to single crochet 4 and then decrease. And we're going to repeat that 6 times to get us down to 30 stitches. It's kind of self-explanatory at this point, but now we're going to single crochet 3 and then decrease, repeating 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. And if you've noticed, I do the invisible decrease, which is slightly different than a regular decrease. A regular decrease, you would go through the entire stitch, pull up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then make a regular single crochet. But for an invisible decrease, you just put your hook through the front loops of your 2 stitches and then make a single crochet that way, and it just looks slightly better. Surprise, surprise, the next round is single crochet to decrease. And don't worry about the fact that it doesn't look quite flat. We're going to fix that in a second. In our second to last round, we're going to single crochet 1 and then decrease for a repeat of 6, leaving us with 12 stitches. At this point, we're going to stuff our little cake, and you can see I'm sort of like pulling at it, and that makes sure that it's flat. Once you stuff it, you're not going to notice anyway, so don't even worry about it. But now it's time to stuff, and I'm just stuffing with some scrap yarn. And you want to stuff it kind of firmly, but you don't want to overstuff it because then it might not be as flat because it's going to poof out the top and the bottom. Once your cake is generously stuffed, we're going to do our last decrease round, which is just to decrease 6 times to get us down to 6 final stitches. With 6 stitches left, you're going to cut your yarn, thread a tapestry needle, and we're going to close this hole. And the way I like doing it is I go in a stitch and then out the next stitch, etc., through all 6 stitches. So you're kind of making like a drawstring bag, and then at the end you're going to pull it really tight and it's going to close up. And then I like making an extra knot just to make sure nothing goes anywhere, and then I hide my end inside the cake. With your secondary color, we're going to start the frosting, and I'm doing it with the hook from the inside of the cake out. So we're working from the inside, so don't mix it up. And I don't need a slip stitch, but if you want to do that, you can. And what we're going to do is we're going to chain up 3, and then we're going to do a 4 double crochet cluster. And what that means is you start a double crochet by going through 2 loops, but you leave the last loop on the hook, and then you just go back in the same stitch and do it again until there are 4 double crochet and 1 extra loop from your chain 3. So there should be 5 loops on your hook right here, and then you're just going to go through all 5 loops. Then you're going to skip the next stitch and then slip stitch into the next stitch and repeat. So you're going to chain 3 again and make another cluster, and you're going to do that all the way around. And as I make my little frosting bits, I like to pop them out with my finger so that they're just facing in the right direction. Then at the very end, you're going to have 1 last stitch. So you're going to put 1 more cluster into that stitch. And then I just slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and it looks pretty nice that way. Now don't break off your yarn because we're going to need it for our next step, which is going to be the little tassel bits. I don't know what those are called on cakes, but basically you're going to chain 5, and then we're going to slip stitch to this center round of loops that we created, and we're going to do it right in between the next 2 clusters. So if you can see, that stitch is right in the center between those 2 clusters above me. And so I'm going to slip stitch to that, and then I'm going to chain 5 more. And then I'm going to slip stitch to a loop in the top round 2 stitches over, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It's not actually that complicated, I just tend to complicate things. And then you're just going to repeat that 5, and then slipping in the middle, and then another 5, and then slipping at the end of the 2, and repeat that all the way around, and it should be even. Also, it's okay if it looks really messy. It will look really messy, but that's fine because we're going to sew it down later anyway, just to make it look nicer. And then once you're at the end of the round, you're just going to slip stitch around where that original stitch was. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're done with that, and we're going to move on to the bottom frosting. So the bottom frosting is identical to the top frosting. The only difference is we're going to be doing it from the outside in as opposed to the top where we were doing it from the inside out, if that makes sense. It's the same number of stitches, so it should work up exactly the same as on the top. Now that we've made a mess, now it's time to fix some things up. And the first thing, I just went ahead and got rid of all these ends. A way I usually like to do it, especially when there's two ends, is I'll just put the end on a tapestry needle and I will, what am I trying to say? I'll sew it into one available stitch, and then I'll take the second end and I will sew it into that same stitch, and then I'll just make a knot, cut the ends, and just push the knot inside, just so I know it's really secure and it's not going to go anywhere. Now our last step is to fix up this frosting. You could leave it like this. I just thought it looked kind of messy. It wasn't the vision that I had in my head. So we're just going to fix it up with some auxiliary yarn and a tapestry needle. I definitely cut a length of yarn that was way too long, so bear with me with that as I'm like pulling and pulling. But basically, I'm just like trying my best. I'm not going in every stitch. I'm going in like every other stitch or every few stitches. My main goal is just to tack it down so that it's flat on the side of the cake and try to shape it into more of like, you know, a U or a bow, just so it looks a little bit prettier. And here is your finished pincushion. Since I already made the pincushion in worsted weight, this one is actually in DK. So as you'll see in a second, it's actually much smaller. So if you want a smaller pincushion, you can do that. Just use DK instead of worsted weight. This was actually my first attempt at this design, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I'm really happy I have a new pincushion that won't stab me like my old one. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, if you want a written version of this pattern, you can find it on my Patreon, or if you don't want to do that, you can find it on my Etsy. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what I should make next. Bye!